Have you ever just stopped and wondered why some nations seem to have so much while others are struggling? The answer doesn't start with governments or big banks. Nope, it starts with something way, way smaller. We're going to connect the dots from just a single, humble business all the way up to the wealth of entire nations.
I mean, just look at this. On one side, you have a family in the UK just surrounded by the stuff they've gathered over a lifetime, and on the other, a family in Mali. The visual gap is, well, it's staggering. But it represents something so much deeper than just stuff. It's a gap in life expectancy, in education, in the kinds of opportunities their kids will have. And this leads us to the absolute core question of this whole thing. Why? What on earth causes these massive differences in how people live across the globe? Well, to really get the big picture, we have to do something kind of counterintuitive. We have to zoom in. Way, way in. Okay, so we're starting with the most basic building block of an economy. Just one single firm working in a competitive market. Think of this as the basic engine. If we can understand its blueprint, we're on our way.
So what do we even mean by a competitive firm? Well, think about a farmer's market, maybe for something like milk or wheat. You got tons of sellers, and the product is pretty much identical no matter who you buy it from, right? Plus, it's relatively easy for a new farmer to get started or for an old one to decide to pack it in. That's the basic setup.
And what's driving this whole operation? It's beautifully simple, really. It's just one crystal clear goal: make as much profit as possible. Every single decision, from who to hire to what to produce, it all comes back to that one single thing. So how does a firm actually figure this out? It's all in the numbers. See, for every extra widget they sell, they get $8. That's their marginal revenue. So they just have to ask themselves a simple question. Does making one more cost me more than $8? As long as the answer is no, they keep making more. And you can see it right here. The profit hits its peak at $21. The sweet spot is that 6th unit, right where the cost to make it finally catches up to the revenue they get for it. So this all boils down to one simple but really powerful rule. For any of these competitive firms, the secret sauce to maximizing profit is to just keep producing right up until the cost of making that very next item is exactly equal to the price you can sell it for. That's it. That's the golden rule. All right, so we've got the blueprint for one little firm down. Now let's zoom back out into the real world, the messy, bustling marketplace where things are rarely so perfectly identical. So on the left, you've got that world of perfect competition, like our wheat farmer. They're what we call a price taker. They just have to accept whatever price the market is offering that day. But on the right, that's where most of us actually live and shop. It's called monopolistic competition. Think restaurants or clothing stores. Because a burger from one place isn't exactly like a burger from another, each one has a little bit of market power, a little wiggle room on what price they can charge. And, the second products start to be different from each other, something totally new enters the game. This quote just nails it. As soon as your product is unique and you can charge a little more than it costs to make, you have a massive reason to shout from the rooftops about it. You've got an incentive to advertise. But hold on. Is all this advertising actually good for us? Well, there's a huge debate here. Critics say it just messes with our heads, making us loyal to a brand instead of just buying whatever's cheapest. But defenders fire back that ads give us useful info, they stir up competition, and this is a cool point, a company's willingness to spend millions on an ad campaign is kind of a signal of quality. Think about it. Why would you spend a fortune promoting a terrible product that people are only going to buy once? Okay, so we've seen how firms battle it out inside a country. But those same core ideas, competition, doing what you're best at, they apply on a much, much bigger scale. So now it's time for our final zoom out, to the world stage. Why do entire countries even bother trading with each other? The entire logic of global trade, and I mean all of it, rests on this one absolutely beautiful idea, comparative advantage. And the key phrase here is opportunity cost. This is not about who's the absolute best at making something. It's about who gives up the least to make it. And that, my friends, is a total game changer of a distinction. Let's make this real with an example between the US and Japan. Okay, so for every computer the US builds, it gives up the chance to grow 10 tons of wheat. But Japan? It only gives up 5 tons of wheat for each computer it makes. Now, here's the kicker. Even if the US was faster at making both things, it doesn't matter. Japan still gives up less wheat to make a computer. That is its comparative advantage. So the logic is simple. Japan should go all in on computers, the US should go all in on wheat, and then they trade. And here's the payoff. This is the magic. Just look at that gains column. After they specialize in trade, the US has more computers and more wheat than it started with. And so does Japan. This isn't one country winning at the other's expense. Trade isn't a zero-sum game. It literally makes the entire economic pie bigger for everybody. Okay, it's time to put all the pieces together. We've looked at how a single firm works, how markets work, and how whole nations trade. So how does this all connect back to that first image, to our big question about why some nations are so incredibly wealthy? The answer? The single most important factor that explains the vast differences in wealth around the world, it all comes down to one single powerful word: productivity. So what is it exactly? Well, to put it really simply, it's the amount of stuff, goods and services, that gets produced for each hour of work. A country's income is just its output. So it stands to reason if your workers can produce more in an hour, the entire country's income is going to be higher. It all, and I mean everything, hinges on this. So what drives productivity? Well, economists have basically boiled it down to 4 key things. First, physical capital, how many tools and machines each worker has. Second, human capital, the knowledge and skills of the workforce from education and training. Third, natural resources, obviously. And finally, and this one might be the biggest of all, technological knowledge, a society's collective understanding of the best ways to do things. And this is where our whole journey comes full circle. Remember that little firm just trying to maximize its profit? That constant pressure forces it to get more efficient, to innovate, to boost its productivity. And remember trade and comparative advantage? That lets a whole country tap into the best tools and tech from all over the world. See, competition and trade aren't just random ideas. They are the 2 forces that pour gasoline on the fire of productivity. And look, this isn't just theory. Just look at this data. Compare China and India, starting from pretty similar places back in 1900. A difference between a 2.5% growth rate and a 1.8% growth rate. I mean, it doesn't sound like much from year to year, does it? But over a century, the incredible power of compounding creates this absolutely massive gap in wealth. Small, boring differences in productivity growth over time, they're everything.
So there you have it. That's the recipe for prosperity. It's the tools we use, the skills we learn, and the technology we create. And it's all sharpened by competition and spread through trade. So the big question we're left with for our future isn't just how we can get more of these ingredients, but which one matters most, and how do we make sure that this incredible engine of productivity actually lifts everyone, everywhere along with it.